Have you ever randomly decided to play Demoman and thought, what's the best shield? And what's the kind of point of them? I've never really played Demoman much, so this is a new thing for me. Every time I do play, I always go for the Tide Turner, but I thought today would be a good opportunity to try out different shields. So you have the Tide Turner, 15% fire damage resistance on wearer, 15% damage resistance on wearer, full turn of control while charging, melee kills 75% charge of meter. The Splendid screen, 20% fire damage resistance on wearer, 20% explosive damage resistance on wearer, 70% increase in charge impact damage, 50% increase in charge recharge rate. And the Chargin Targe, the original. 50% fire resistance on wearer and 30% explosive damage resistance on wearer as well. So this is the idea. How do I find out which is the best one for me? So I thought, okay, well, let's get 500 kills with each one. So first thing, let's choose a sword. Now for this, I've decided to go for the half Zoichi, or whatever, however pronounce it, honestly. The things they call this stuff in this game, but 500 kills on each shield. And obviously, if you're going to do a Demoman challenge, I feel like you should have the correct attire. So, spending more than I really should, I got a smoking samurai, which, by the way, was the biggest waste of money, and I'm so glad I can sell it again after doing this. Smoking, which can look good on some hats, don't get me wrong, it can look good, is absolutely not noticeable whatsoever, especially in the kind of inflation of different effects with loads of like hundreds and hundreds of different effects. Smoking, just no one ever notices it anymore, but definitely not my cup of tea. And then you have the Bushido, or again, however you pronounce this. It's interesting. After this, so this is obviously filmed after I did these three shields, 1,500 kills, but my points, 2,136. That's probably because I actually killed a fair number of people with the Tide Turner, and as you'll quickly find, I only played one map. Okay, so first shield first. In release order, the Chargin Targe. Okay, this was an interesting one. This is going to suffer, unfortunately, and have issues that other shields didn't, simply because of my own skill capability with using a class I love to play. It is my most played class, but it is a subclass I never ever play because I am a filthy sticky spammer. So, how did I get on with it? I got plenty of kills, everything went pretty well. I found the resistance was fantastic. I could go against pyros like nobody's business, and they were not a threat to me. Classes like pyros and explosive classes like Demoman or soldiers, really I found quite easy. I did find this was the beginning of the weakness against scouts that plagued the entire time. So scouts, 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 with also competent pyros. Competent pyros are also the bane of my existence. Now, with the fire damage resistance, I have no issue against them, but it is just when they're competent and they can push you away with the air blast, you find yourself in a terrible position. As I mentioned with the scouts, they are so much faster than you, and it takes so long for your shield to charge that it was just painful. Survivability rating through the roof, everything else I really struggled with. The second shield. This is the Splendid screen, the kind of Sparta, Italian, Mediterranean looking one, for instance. This, it was good. I found this was like the escape option more than anything. I found I was able to go in, control where I was going a little better. As I say, the skill ceiling that I had, my own capability, had improved drastically, I found with this. And I noticed the amount of kills I was getting was going, the kill streaks were fantastic. However, the survivability against pyros dropped massively. Again, sticky spamming Demoman, soldier, I find they shoot me up in the air, I am useless. But in theory, a 70% increase in charge impact damage would be great. However, when I'm purely going off the kills I get with my sword, any awfully timed hit ended up ruining everything. However, with a 50% increase in charge rate, This was brilliant. I go in, get a kill, and I get out. This is quite nice. I feel like I could chase down targets, and also with the increased speed. Yes, my survivability isn't so good against Demoman, soldiers, and pyros. However, I found this was a little easier at avoiding any of the pesky scouts, because it was about picking my battles, and that is something I learned to get much better at using the Splendid screen. So kill streaks, yes. A way out and an escape plan, absolutely. Survivability, at least it meant I could get back into the action. And finally, the Tide Turner. Now, with this one, I remember it coming out, I want to say the 2014 update. That definitely wasn't gunmetal. That was the taunt one. I remember that very specifically because the backscatter, I think, came out at the same time. And all the taunts and those crazy cases, I definitely need to open some of those soon. That would be awesome. Though a lot of the taunt effects are terrible. But I remember this one coming out. And to be honest, I use this every time I play Demo Night, which is once every 2 years for about 10 minutes before I inevitably get angry and go back to the sticky bomb launcher or the quickie bomb launcher. So the Tide Turner, how did I get on with this one? As it says, 15% fire damage resistance on wearer, 15% explosive damage resistance on wearer. This is the lowest. For reference, the Chargin Targe is 50% on both of these, and then I think it's 30% for the Splendid screen and 15% for these. So your survivability is shocking. Definitely in comparison, it is terrible, and you feel it big time. So competent scouts, any scout, again, it remains a weakness on this shield, but any competent pyro, you are done, it is over. However, a good thing about this also, I should point out, it took me to complete 2 whole shields before realizing I should put the bootlegger on. Yeah, again, definite disadvantage. I think I realized this halfway through the Splendid screen. But for the Tide Turner, full turn control while charging is a game-changing mechanic. Game-changing. I found I can now use this as an escape method, as well as looping round like things and being able to hit your target so much better. And this one benefited where the Chargin Targe suffered. I found my timing was better, when I should get in and get out, which targets I should go for better, learning the maps, and I was a full hardcore harvest player by the time this shield rolled around. Now, the best part about this is melee kills refill 75% of your charge meter. This is basically 100%. It says 75%. It's basically 100%. I never, to be honest, I thought it was 100%. This is the first time I'm seeing that it's just 75%. So this was fantastic. Taking damage while shield charging reduces remaining charge time. Again, a mechanic I didn't even notice. For this one, you just felt like a machine. You go in, you strike, you kill, and you can immediately either get out or go for your next target. However, because of the charge time prior to the kill, it's a bit like using the eternal reward. It's only beneficial after you get that first kill, like the big earner and some other mechanic based weapons that require you to get the kills. So Tide Turner I loved, definitely got a lot of kill streaks with. However, I will say this is the one that took the longest time. Now 500 kills doesn't sound like a lot, but I will tell you now, it is taking me a month to do this. A month. I wasn't expecting that. My first game, I think I came away with 30 or 40 kills. I went, okay, this isn't going to be so bad. It was so bad. So now comes to the point, which is the best shield for you? Now, for survivability, 110% go for the Chargin Targe. The resistance is fantastic, and you can kind of learn how to defeat the most difficult people like pyros. However, if you're doing this type of demo night stuff, keep to smaller maps, cut the distance, and that was the big thing, cut the distance. Chargin Targe, survivability. The middle of the pack, I would say, is the Splendid screen. Resistance stuff is down. However, your ability to go again is even better. It's a meh, in my opinion, the Splendid screen. It's neither great at one or bad at the other. It's just meh. Unless you're deliberately going ahead and trying to kill people with your shield. The Tide Turner, for instance, I found to be the most challenging yet most rewarding one. Oh, this is fantastic if you're taking down a medic and heavy pair. Oh my goodness. This will be brilliant. You can target the medic quite easily, get that kill, and you can get out of there. Massive thing. Would never engage on a scout unless it's very close combat. That's okay. It's normally a 2 or 3 hit. Or a heavy, unless I've seen they've been actively weakened, or I know they're genuinely terrible at the game, which is, it's hard to be bad at a heavy. So, high risk to start with, but as I mentioned before, that same mechanic. Get your kill, get out. Get your kill, and everything starts seeming so much better. So for me, I personally would prefer the Tide Turner, only because I feel out of all of the 500 kills, it could be considered a bad thing. I spent the most amount of time with the Tide Turner. I don't know exactly the numbers on this, but after 500 kills of each shield, for me, it's the Tide Turner. Hopefully a bit of an in-depth dive into each one of these shields have helped you select whichever one you want to go at, but obviously try them all. Have a go at these things. They're always good fun, especially if it's a meta that you don't, or a play style that you don't typically categorize yourself into playing. It's a great way to kind of cut it's a great way to cut the monotonity, you know what I'm trying to say, of Team Fortress 2. It's a very busy time at the moment in the game, as it's about to be the summer update with the custom man vs machine stuff out right now, and all the MVM goings on behind the scenes, whatever that turns out to be. But casual TF2 is great. I cannot tell you how excited I am to stop playing with a shield and a sword. I cannot tell you how excited I am to stop playing Harvest.